Hello, dear listeners. I'm Alex Montgomery, and welcome back to another episode of English Talks. Today, we're diving into something extraordinary, something that has captured human imagination for over 1,400 years. We're talking about chess. But this isn't just about learning how to move pieces across a checkered board. No, we're going on a much deeper journey. Together, we'll explore the origins of this magnificent game, understand the unique roles of every piece that graces the 64 squares, and uncover the profound philosophical wisdom hidden within each move, each capture, each sacrifice. Chess is far more than a game. It's a mirror held up to life itself, reflecting our strategies, our fears, our dreams, and our endless pursuit of that elusive thing we call victory. So settle in, make yourself comfortable, and let's begin our exploration of the royal game, the foundation of chess. To truly understand chess, we must travel back in time, far back, to the ancient world where empires rose and fell, where scholars puzzled over mathematics, and where warriors dreamed of conquest. Most historians believe chess was born in India, sometime around the 6th century CE, in the Gupta Empire where a game called Chaturanga was played on an 8x8 grid. Now, here's where it gets fascinating. Chaturanga wasn't just entertainment, it was a military simulation. The name itself translates to 4 divisions of the military, and indeed, the game represented an army on the battlefield. You had infantry, cavalry, elephantry, and chariots, the very backbone of ancient Indian armies. 4 players would compete in teams using dice to determine moves, their fates subject to chance rather than pure skill. From India, chess traveled westward to Persia, where it became Chaturanga, beloved by nobles and strategists alike. When the Islamic conquests swept across Persia, the game adapted once more, becoming Shatranj, and this version began its journey across the Islamic world, from Baghdad to Cordoba, from Constantinople to Venice. Arab scholars preserved and refined the game, developing the opening theories and strategic principles we still study today. The transformation that would create the chess we know today occurred in Europe during the 15th century. In Spain and Italy, rules evolved dramatically. The vizier became the queen. Yes, the most powerful piece on the board was once merely an advisor. The alfil, that mysterious 2-stepping elephant, morphed into the bishop we recognize now. And the movement restrictions that once made the game slow and methodical gave way to the dynamic, aggressive game we play today. By 1851, the first international chess tournament kicked off in London, and the world had its first true chess masters. Steinitz, the Austrian who would become the first world chess champion, helped establish the strategic foundations of modern play. And then came the giants, Rubinstein, Capablanca, Alekhine, each pushing the boundaries of what humans could achieve with 64 squares and 32 pieces. Today, chess stands as perhaps the oldest continuously played game in human history. And yet, far from becoming obsolete, it thrives. Over 605 million people play chess regularly worldwide. Grandmasters command attention across the globe. Computers have become our partners in exploration, helping us understand depths of the game that human minds alone could never plumb. But here's what truly matters. Chess endures because it speaks to something fundamental in the human condition. It captures the eternal struggle between strategy and chaos, protection and attack, patience and aggression. It teaches us about sacrifice, about foresight, about the heavy weight of every decision. In chess, we find not merely a game but a philosophy of life itself, i.e. the pieces and their roles. Now, let's examine what makes this game tick, the pieces themselves, each with their unique abilities, their distinctive personalities, their particular places in the grand scheme of things. Let's begin with the piece that forms the backbone of any army, the pawns. 8 strong, they stand in formation at the front lines, humble in appearance but mighty in potential. The pawn moves forward 1 square at a time, a lesson in patience and incremental progress. But capture? Ah, that's different. Pawns capture diagonally, 1 step to the left or right, teaching us that progress sometimes requires sideways thinking, and the pawn's power lies in transformation. Reach the opposite end of the board, and the pawn becomes anything desired: a queen, a rook, a bishop, a knight. This is the promise of chess, Even the humblest piece can achieve ultimate elevation. It's the great equalizer, whispering that origin need not determine destination. The pawn's special moves include en passant, the right to capture an opponent's pawn as it dashes past, reminding us that opportunities disappear quickly and we must sometimes act decisively in the moment. And then there's the initial move, the option to advance 2 squares, a burst of initial energy before the slow grind begins. Rook. Now enter the rook, the castle, the tower, the fortress made solid. Rooks move in straight lines, horizontally and vertically, as far as the board allows, obstructed only by pieces in their path. There's something magnificent about their simplicity. No fancy diagonals, no knight's strange L shape. Just direct, powerful movement across open lines. Rooks are late bloomers. In the opening, they huddle in corners, waiting, watching. Only when the center opens and other pieces clear the way do rooks come into their power. This teaches patience. This teaches that timing matters as much as ability. The rook's value is immense, 5 points in the standard valuation system, and its presence on an open 7th rank, churning away at enemy pawns, spells doom for opposing kings. Knight. And now we meet perhaps the most enigmatic piece on the board, the knight. The L-shaped movement confuses beginners and masters alike. 2 squares in one direction, then 1 square perpendicular. It's the only piece that can jump over others, rising above the clutter of the battlefield, appearing suddenly in the most unexpected squares. Knights have personality. They are erratic, unpredictable, striking from angles. A knight on the rim, that outer edge, often feels diminished, gimped, limited. But place a knight near the center, and it controls up to 8 squares, a whirlwind of activity and threat. There's a lesson here. Positioning matters profoundly. Where you stand determines what you can accomplish. The knight specializes in forks, attacking 2 pieces simultaneously, forcing impossible choices. It's the trickster, the surprise attacker, the piece that seems to appear from nowhere. In the endgame, knights gain relative strength, their unique movement pattern becoming increasingly valuable as other pieces disappear from the board. Bishop. The bishop glides diagonally across the board, swift and elegant, limited only by color. Each bishop is imprisoned on either the light or dark squares, never crossing to the opposite hue. 2 bishops, working in harmony, can cover the entire board, one on light, one on dark, a partnership of complementary strengths. Bishops are long-range pieces, able to influence the game from tremendous distances. They excel in open positions, their firepower extending across diagonals like laser beams. But in closed positions, where pawns clutter the board, bishops can become bottled up, frustrated, diminished. This teaches adaptability. The same piece that thrives in openness can wither in congestion. In the endgame, bishops grow dangerous. A bishop and king can force checkmate against a lone king, a cooperative dance of coordination. Bishops work well together, their combined value exceeding the sum of their parts, a lesson in synergy. Queen. Now we approach the monarch of the board, the queen, the most powerful piece in the game. She moves in any direction, any distance, horizontally, vertically, diagonally. Rook and bishop combined, she is destruction incarnate, the apex of offensive capability. But here's the paradox. The queen's power is also her vulnerability. She cannot be protected too heavily, cannot be exposed to unnecessary risk. A queen's sacrifice, giving up this greatest of pieces for strategic advantage, is one of the most dramatic moments in chess. It requires vision, faith, the willingness to let go of what seems most precious. The queen coordinates attacks, protects allies, penetrates enemy defenses. She's the centerpiece of aggressive play, the beacon around which strategies revolve. And yet, in the endgame, as queens disappear from the board, we often find ourselves missing her singular capabilities. King. And finally, we arrive at the king, the heart of the game, the piece for which everything else exists. The king moves 1 square in any direction, limited in his mobility but protected by his court. And here's the great irony. The king is both the most important piece and often the weakest during actual play, hiding behind pawns and pieces, safe but restricted. The king's true test comes in the endgame. With danger receding, the king becomes an active participant, striding across the board, supporting pawns, hunting enemy kings. A well-positioned king in the ending can mean the difference between victory and defeat. The king teaches that survival sometimes requires patience, that protection matters before aggression, and that timing, stepping out at the right moment, determines destiny. Checkmate means the king's capture. The game ends. The battle concludes. No piece truly captures the king. Instead, checkmate signifies the overwhelming threat of capture, the impossibility of escape. It's a lesson in finality, in the consequences of poor positioning. The philosophical significance. But we've only scratched the surface. The true depth of chess lies not in its rules or its pieces, but in what they represent, what philosophical truths they reveal about human existence, about strategy, about life itself. Let's explore the deeper meaning. The king and queen, identity and power. The king and queen together represent the dual nature of leadership. The king embodies responsibility, the weight of protecting others, the necessity of remaining alive above all else. The king cannot be sacrificed, cannot be given up for advantage. His safety must always remain paramount. The queen, by contrast, represents power, the ability to act, to influence, to destroy obstacles. She's the executive function, the driver of action, the manifestation of will in the world. Together, king and queen create a balance, the wisdom to know when to be cautious and the strength to act when action is required. In life, we each carry both king and queen within us. The king is our need for security, our instinct for self-preservation. The queen is our ambition, our drive toward achievement. Neither can be ignored. Too much king, and we become paralyzed, hiding from risk, never pursuing our dreams. Too much queen, and we burn out, sacrifice ourselves pursuing goals without regard for preservation. Balance is everything. The bishops, perspective and limitation. The bishops teach us about perspective and its limitations. Each bishop sees the world through only one color, trapped in a single reality, light or dark, always. The bishop cannot imagine what the other sees, cannot perceive the other color's world. We are like bishops. Our experiences shape our perceptions, create our realities, limit our understanding. The businessman sees the world through economics. The artist sees it through aesthetics. The scientist sees it through systems and measurement. Each worldview is valid, yet each is incomplete. True wisdom comes from recognizing that others see what we cannot see, that different perspectives illuminate different truths. And the bishops teach us about partnership. Alone, each bishop is limited to half the board. Together, covering both colors, they become complete. This is collaboration, a lesson that combining different perspectives creates comprehensive understanding. The knights, creativity and unpredictability. The knights represent creativity, the ability to see connections others miss, to jump over conventional obstacles, to appear where least expected. Their L-shaped movement mimics the non-linear leaps of creative thought, those moments of insight that arrive sideways, arriving at solutions through unexpected pathways. Knights teach us about the value of the unexpected. In life, as in chess, the most successful strategies often involve elements that opponents cannot anticipate. The innovator succeeds not by copying others, but by finding new approaches, by moving in patterns that others have not yet recognized. And knights teach us that sometimes, to achieve the extraordinary, we must be willing to be different, to move in ways that seem awkward, even unnatural. The knight's movement looks strange, inefficient, but its uniqueness is its power. The rooks, stability and patience. Rooks embody stability, the foundation upon which victories are built. They're not glamorous, not exciting, but they're reliable. They move in straight lines, predictable and powerful, the backbone of any army. The lesson of the rook is patience. Rooks await their time, holding position until opportunities emerge. They don't seek glory in the opening. They wait for the endgame when their strength becomes decisive. In life, the rook reminds us that not every moment requires dramatic action. Sometimes the wisest course is to hold position, maintain stability, and wait for the right moment to act. The rook also teaches about open lines, the paths to power. An open file, a rook's highway, is incredibly valuable, and controlling one can tip the balance of the entire game. In our lives, open paths, opportunities, become available when we clear obstacles, when we create space for our strengths to operate. The pawns, humility and potential. And now we arrive at the most profound piece of all, the pawn. Humble in appearance, limited in movement, the pawn seems insignificant. But chess philosophy reveals that the pawn carries the deepest lessons. The pawn teaches humility. Despite being the weakest piece, each pawn has the potential to become a queen. This is the promise of transformation. What seems small and limited can, with patience and proper positioning, achieve the highest possible stature. The pawn reminds us that no role is too small, no beginning too humble. The pawn teaches about sacrifice. Pawns defend, pawns advance, pawns give themselves so that more powerful pieces can flourish. The pawn's existence is service, protecting the king, creating space for rooks and knights, blocking enemy advances. In life, many of us are pawns, and there's no shame in this. The willingness to serve, to protect, to advance the cause of something greater than ourselves, this is noble. The pawn also teaches about the power of coordination. Alone, a pawn is weak. But passed pawns, those that have advanced beyond the possibility of being blocked, become threats that demand constant attention. Together, pawns linked in chains support each other, advance together, protect each other's advance. Individual weakness becomes collective strength through coordination and trust. And the pawn's move, forward, always forward, never backward, teaches about commitment. Each decision we make moves us forward. We cannot undo our moves, only respond to them. This is life. We advance, we commit, we move in one direction, adapting as we go, but always forward. The checkmate, finality and meaning. Finally, we must consider checkmate, that moment when the game ends, when the king can no longer escape, when defeat becomes absolute. Checkmate teaches about finality. In chess, unlike life, there are clear conclusions, winners and losers, victories and defeats. This clarity can be harsh, but it also reveals something essential. Decisions have consequences, and sometimes those consequences cannot be undone. The lesson is not to fear finality, but to respect it, to understand that some moves, once made, determine outcomes. And yet, here's the beautiful paradox. Even in checkmate, there are lessons. Every game can be played again. Every defeat contains the seeds of future victory. Every mistake becomes grist for growth. Checkmate is not the end of story. It's simply one chapter's conclusion, a moment to reflect, to learn, to return to the board for another experience conclusion. And so, dear listeners, we come to the end of our journey through the squares of chess, through its history, its pieces, and its profound philosophy. We've traveled from ancient India, through Persia and the Islamic Golden Age, to the European courts where modern chess was born. We've met every piece, the patient pawn, the powerful queen, the protective king, the elegant bishops, the creative knights, and the stable rooks. And we've discovered that chess is far more than a game. It's a teacher, a mirror, a philosophy of existence. Every move on the chessboard reflects choices we make in life. Every sacrifice mirrors the giving that love requires. Every strategy represents the planning that achievement demands. Chess teaches us about patience, about the importance of position, about the value of perspective, about the power of coordinated action, and about the courage to sacrifice for something greater than ourselves. The philosopher of chess, the grand master who truly understands the game, sees not 64 squares but an entire world of choices and consequences, strategies and sacrifices, victories and defeats, each reflecting something fundamental about the human condition. So here's your invitation. Find a board, learn the moves, play with abandon, analyze with precision, and reflect with wisdom. Let chess teach you what it has taught millions before you, that the journey matters, that strategy matters, that every piece matters, and that the game itself is a worthy teacher of life's deepest lessons. Until next time, dear listeners, keep playing, keep learning, and remember, Every game is an opportunity for growth. Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed this exploration of chess, please share this episode with friends who love the game and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll see you next time on our continuing journey through games, strategy, and the deepest aspects of human experience.